this panel is only 20 minutes long. That's how much tape is left on this. Yeah, so... yeah, this is AdamaCon. The AdamaCon. Yeah, so... It's, yeah, day 3. Or, well, day 2, technically, because... We'll have other AdamaCons, I'm sure. But, yeah, it's going to talk about all the books and stuff, but I'm not actually going to this time of this convention. We'll have to have another one next week or something. I want to talk about, mainly, on this panel, the Cillian saga, since that's the current one, and that kind of thing. So that's the Cillian saga. I was currently working on the Isolation 1 and 2, which are the middle episode. We're tackling Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard as parodies, calling it Star Trek Discotheque and Star Trek Clerk, after Lucky Clerk, who was Picard. We married him to Sam Clerk in the Picard show, but in this one it's different. It's all convoluted because we didn't actually do any form parody of Discovery at all. We just included some of the characters, because it's very hard to do a form parody of something that's that much of a mess. But the Picard show was a little better, so we did a form parody of each episode of Picard as it was aired. So there's like 100-some pages of actual, like, spoof of the actual episodes as they aired, but with the names changed. In the story, we could combine them, but they're not really combined. And Isolation is sort of a crossover between the two. If you combine them, you'd have to explain the 3 years that passed, and then they skip back to the 2 years. For some reason, the Picard show takes place in 2399, and the Cillian show takes place in 2396, because that's the year it actually is right now. So it makes this confusion. Yeah, it's late 2396, according to the timeline. It's been 32 years since Next Generation started, and this should be nearing the end of the 32nd season of the show. But Picard show jumps 3 years in the future and retcons most of the past. I should probably explain all that stuff. Yeah, Q&A right away. Yeah, so then we'll just go into that. Yeah, Star Trek Discovery started in 2017 as a spin-off prequel set during the time of Axanar. Yes. Borrowing liberally from video games references, including a little-known one called Tardigrades. Not so much borrowing from the works of Michael Gemmelt, but more or less borrowing from Fuller's story, which became American Gods and other things. Also, to an extent, from some of the other franchises out there. Fuller's original intent for the Mirror Universe episodes was to set up a sort of quasi do you know where you are Twilight Zone kind of thing, and he talked about this in a blog recently, saying that his intent for Discovery was to have you not know it's the Mirror Universe until you were halfway through, and then realize the entire story was set in the Mirror Universe. That way you could get away with all the canon stuff. That would have been absolutely awesome if they'd done that, but they didn't do that. And yeah, then it makes sense. Then Discovery makes sense, because if it was really all supposed to be set in the Mirror Universe, then nothing we were seeing was from the Prime Universe at all. It was all the Mirror Universe. All the Mirror Universe. And yeah, that would have been better. But they let Fuller go. Yeah. They didn't let Mark's Cards or I pitch, of course. Yeah. And yeah, so they didn't do that. Yeah, they don't know who we are, but yeah, even though we've inspired several different aspects of the show over the last 3 years, a lot of it. Yeah, so female Vortas and Jem'Hadars and early version of the Borg, that kind of thing. Yeah, all fan stuff. And we were some of them. I'm not saying we're the only ones that thought of that. Other people did. That would have been really weird if they'd gone with the Iliop adventure that was leaked. The adventure of Teddy Ruxpin in Star Trek. where he becomes an evil sort of killing machine. A la the Five Nights at Freddy's, which came much later. But this was like way back in 87 or 88. This story was submitted to Paramount, and they said, no, we don't want to do that. Teddy Ruxpin, what's that? But come on. Picard's going to kick a teddy bear around? Come on. But yeah, we made him human-sized and made him evil. Yeah, come on. It's in Cillian space. No, it's a Cillian saga. The Cillian collectives were, well, interesting. We started them as teenagers in high school. School for kids with learning disabilities called Pine Hill. With junior high and high school together. We were very immature, and but we loved Star Trek to the point that it was ridiculous, and we put up our own version of it. And Cillian saga, Silly Trek, and which later evolved into Starship Locations after being evolved into several other things. A spin-off of it, which was redirected, was called Star Crackers, as in Graham Cracker Chronicles, Star Crackers, as in not cracker people, and that became a fan film in the 90s, which was put up on YouTube in 2012, and then again in 2014. But yeah, you get to see us as so yeah, the Star Trek, the Star Trek thing went in and out like the Transformer stuff did, except Star Trek never really went away, even after, you know, like the 18 years of Next Generation up until, and if you count Voyager and Deep Space Nine, which were on at the same time, and Next Generation has 3 7-year periods, all connected together. Then you have 21 years of Star Trek, basically. But it was 18. 87 to October 87 to roughly 2005 in Enterprise. So Enterprise counts in there. So 18 years. Enterprise, we did some of that too. And some of the bad ones. No, we did not do the one with the dog in it. We did not do A Night in Sick Bay. That wasn't a marked card story. It seemed like it, but no. Not taking credit for that one. Slime Monster one might take credit for that. Tucker getting pregnant will take credit for that one. Yes, that's a Silly Trek story. Mark's cards beams down to a planet. He becomes pregnant, even though he's a boy. Ooh, shocking. That was the joke, and that was the same joke in Enterprise, even though they claim someone else wrote that one. No, it's a Silly Trek story. Can't believe they went with that one. It was a joke. It's sort of like when they did Spock's brain, because it was a joke, and they were like, "Oh, we filmed it." It's like, "What? You filmed that? Why?" But yeah. So yeah, Cillian saga. Silly Trek had many itinerations. I won't go over all the details. In the 90s, it wasn't as big because there wasn't as much to do about Star Trek. It was on the air, so why spoof it? But then a resurgence of it appeared in the 2010s when the new J.J. Abrams movies were out, and so we're going to put the Cillian saga into book form and put it on Kindle, along with Distant Destinies, which became Canary Space, and Starcrackers, which became Space Vanguard's DSV, because there was another Vanguard and we didn't want to confuse them. Space Vanguard's DSV. That's the name of the ship. It was called the Josh Braun, after someone we knew from Pine Hill, but who had died. And we honored him by giving him a ship, but we couldn't use that anymore. So the Vanguards, changed the name. Vanguards is good. Use that. It's a Braun. It's a Vanguard. Same thing. Space Time I was a collection of short stories that we did. The Cillian Saga, which is the longest one, that has all kinds of extra stuff, including Marshall Sportiest, the TMS, the Bullshido files done as Star Trek was also included in there, because we figured, why not? Because that's actually the most awesome character study ever accomplished in that time period, at least for us anyway. The idea that you took this blog that lasted from 2005 to 2015 and other people's blogs with some permissions, but not all, and did their version of it as a Star Trek story set in outer space. Kind of a nice idea. Yeah, so I'm going into the TMS stuff a little bit there. But yeah, it's but not too much. Yeah, it's completely changed from the Grandmaster Jung Swan elements, all that. It's completely changed from Martial Sportiest. It was a character that we had at the conventions, the Martial Sportist Kitty Key, before they did it, and then we did it to spoof on theirs, and then no one got it because it was all an in-joke. But Kitty Key still appears at every convention event. Not this one, though, interestingly enough. And yeah, he's been like that. Last year we did an adaptation of the Teddy Ruxpin thing. So there you go. That I referenced before. I did a live version of that. It was very surreal and weird. But yeah, not with Picard in it. But me playing, I guess, a Locarno type character who has a Teddy Ruxpin running around. Sure. Locarno being like, yeah, Paris. We're not related. But yeah, Voyager. So that's basically it for that group. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, questions, I guess. I won't answer questions like what books or how many there are. Go on Kindle and look up Cillian Saga, Cillian Collective, Martial Sporties Collective. They're all there. Look them up. Kal Kat and Mark's Cards. Sometimes the Follett. Sometimes others. We had to pull 2 books later on, just a few months ago, because the other group that had permissions said, we don't want this particular character's real name. We want a fake name, so change it back to whatever your version was. Because the real name leaked into the story. We didn't realize it, so we had to change that. Fairly easy to do. It's on Amazon Kindle. Went back and changed the name to a fake name. Does change the ending of this story. At the beginning of the story, the Chimera story, just happened to have that character. The latest Starship Locations does change it, but you won't know that because yeah. So yeah, okay. Any of it's slash fiction? No, none of it's not slashy at all. Oh. Not gonna answer that one. No slash fiction. Yeah. So. Yeah. Anything else? What's the time on this one? 10 minutes. Okay. It's a short one. It's a short one though. Yeah. So. There's another book. It's based on Picard, and kind of like Picard and the other one. It's also based on there's a blog one that's in the back burner, based on the Colavito Alien Saga of the Giants, Alien Saga, not the Giants baseball team, but the Giants, Space Giants. That's going to be in there somehow, re-engineered so it's not him, obviously. Because that's the bigger thing. Sort of like we did with we threw in the end of it. We did do the Channel Awesome thing, debacle. The 70-page Channel Awesome debacle ended up parodied as a Silly Trek story and ended up in the Draconis and Keptera stories as one of the final episodes in that series, or one of the last third episodes, which was bizarre to include that in there. So it's actually a printing of that done with Cillians going over it, because they were there too, obviously. But yes, but yeah, the Cillians were there. I wasn't there. Does that work? Yes, at only brief points does my character, the Mary Sue type of character, appear in that. He doesn't appear that much in that segment because he wasn't there. So everyone else
The
does.
girls seem to be wanting food.
They haven't meowed.
I've had it once while you were down. Listen, you have to help me get out the door.
Okay, so Cillians. Yeah. So what is that about anyway? Different characters and stories sets. It was a role-playing game. Silly Trek was a role-playing game. This is too. A lot of those people that were part of this current season had bugged out at the last minute, so they're not in it. So whenever they leave, they left after the first stories were in production. So there's this drop off similar to in the '90s, which you don't know about, in which people graduated or whatever, or left or whatever. I was like, there's nothing more for them to do. So yeah, so the story kind of explores that a little bit, and also how do you have a character who's a Mary Sue, loosely based on you actually. Couple with anybody, because then it's weird because they're similar to someone from before, and it's like, well, I guess you just got to make something up, kind of. So, yeah, so there was this one main character that was going to be this setup for this character, but clearly that didn't work. That wasn't going to work as a story. Very similar to what happened with Fictional Adventures and how that was adapted to from a location. That was adapted as well. And into Silly Trek as well. It became the Andover and Semester's stories set in Cillian space. Kept the other one. Pathfinder. Pathfinder's Starcracker's Distant Destinies crossover. Spock. Bones. So, yeah. There was going to be a cast of young adults from the coffee shop. They were going to be in the church coffee shop. They were going to be in they had a game thing already going. They had a game night, and this Starship Locations was going to waltz in there and do some, but they ended up closing the game night. They didn't do it anymore. It wasn't me. It was before I even started. So, yeah, they ended up not doing that last year. So, just at the right about a year ago, right about when the convention circuit started, and they were months away from releasing Starship Chimera the movie. They kind of wanted to wait until the movie came out and see what happens. The movie came out in September. All the books came out between last May and around September. So the books all came out too. So now they know. But I have not had any new leads on that, so I don't know whether any of them want to come back. With the exception of perhaps one or two of them that came back anyway and said, but kind of